Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Happy Friday. We are excited to be joined today by the Chief Strategy Director at JUSH, Trent Woloveck. Excited to welcome him back and talk a little bit about what has been going on a company level. And of course, as you guys are probably very familiar with, if you are following the cannabis space in general, a lot of interesting stuff happening politically, a lot of interesting kind of state stories happening as well. So we will cover kind of what has been a very busy and exciting week, as you know, the industry and sort of the investment side of things is also trying to piece together the impacts on that front. But either way, I think very great, very excited to have a good conversation. I think Trent is always, super knowledgeable, always fun to have on as well, which does make a difference as well. So good reminder, of course, if you're out there, if you've got questions, comments, you are always welcome to throw them in the chat. We take them on every platform except for Instagram. I see Stevie in there. Hey, Stevie, great to see you. Friday or Friday. I think he was doing a pun on fries because I know love our fries too. You know, gotta have a little fun too. I think if you're at McDonald's, you get free fries if you have the app or something. I don't know. But let's get to cannabis and Trent. So, I feel like it's been a crazy week just in general. We'll talk about it in a little more depth, but sort of high level, how are you feeling kind of wrapping up, coming to the end of what's been a busy week?
Yeah, I think, well, first off, thanks for having me as always, Mackenzie. Always enjoy the conversation, obviously, and, being able to kind of share what the industry feels from an operational perspective, from a reality perspective, obviously. A lot of rumors floating around after last week with A3 not getting a majority, actually getting a pretty big majority, just not reaching that 60% threshold. For JUSH, and the industry as a whole, obviously, that's quite disappointing. But there were a lot of headwinds out there around that. I think first off, the sentiment around what Kim did is ludicrous to me. I mean, she did exactly what she should have done. This idea that she spent $140 million of cash, and that's not a good thing. I mean, look, investors had every opportunity as she kept spending money to get out of that stock if they wanted to. So I think that's quite harsh critics for something that took a lot of guts and a lot of leadership, and kudos to her on taking the lead on that. All focus on certain markets. This is obviously one market that she had focus on, and so I know she probably doesn't care about what I have to think, but anybody that thinks that was not the right decision is out of their mind. So just my little piece on that. But
I definitely think it's easy to criticize. I definitely understand that opinion. I think it is a lot harder to try to make a change, to try to invest the time and the energy and the money to get something done and make that
look,
positive.
Somebody has to do it. We're in an industry that over the last 15 plus years, from a regulated standpoint, like, yeah, we've pushed, and we've pushed really hard, and we've gotten to where we're going with creative thinkers and people that want to push the boundaries. And in Florida, that's just what it took, and will continue to take, quite frankly. And so as somebody that's been in the industry for so long, I really appreciate when people go and do that. So that's just how I think about that one. Obviously, there was a lot of embedded growth and a lot of excitement for a lot of different companies with the footprint that they had here in Florida. JUSH wasn't one of those companies, and so really what A3 did to us was just increase our cost of capital, quite frankly, because the equity markets shat themselves, and that's not even kind of taking into consideration what happened at the federal level with obviously President-elect Trump taking the vote by quite a large margin, and then the Senate flipping, obviously, in the House holding. Republican. Obviously, we've seen, you know, Trump's thoughts around, who takes over what, a lot of nominations, floating around.
Mhm.
I think he's doing what he said he was going to do, which was, continue to kind of shake up,
Yep.
and deliver on, what, what he's said on the campaign trail. Um, Look, he's kind of in the same situation that, President Biden walked into, back in 2020, when he had, all three branches, locked and loaded.
Mhm.
The good news for cannabis, and I think this has gotten lost in the wash. Like, he supports rescheduling, he supports safer. I mean, he's pro business. If you didn't think this administration was going to be pro business, before, just look at it as appointees or proposed
Yeah.
appointees, and tell me the next 4 years aren't going to be about making money. Period.
Yes.
Whether that's crypto, cannabis, energy, you name it. Um, that's what this is about for the next, uh, for at least 4 years. So, I feel confident in that.
Mhm.
RFK, has made his position known on cannabis, for quite some time, quite frankly,
Mhm.
and not just cannabis, but other, natural, occurring, plants and or,
Medicine,
derivatives.
psychedelics.
And
Yeah.
so, he's over it. Well, proposed to be over HHS. So we know that recommendation and all that work that they've done since October of 22, all their findings, all their recommendations, aren't going to be, upturned,
Mhm.
or challenged, quite frankly, probably. If not, are they going to go further? I don't know. But, I think the big ones, obviously the big one, which, a lot of people are unsure if it's going to happen or not, is obviously, U.S. Congressman Matt Gaetz, as U.S. Attorney General. We also got Thrun in there, at the leadership position in the Senate. I mean, I wouldn't call him pro cannabis by any means, but,
Yeah.
um, I mean, you're talking about somebody replacing Mitch McConnell. Last time I checked, there ain't nobody worse than Mitch McConnell on cannabis.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's a step in the right direction. And look, I think, it's not a hidden secret that, people that are loyal to you know President Pro Tem Trump,
Mhm.
get rewarded and put into the places in his administration. And so, um, uh, you know, last thing I think he's going to do is, double cross him, in his first week on the job.
Yeah.
And this narrative around Matt Gaetz quitting because he doesn't want, his sex party, investigation made public. Let me tell you one thing about, U.S. Congressman Matt Gaetz. All press is good press in that man's mind. And so anytime he can get into the news, um, is he's going to take that opportunity. So I don't know if he thought it was actually the worst thing that it was going to come out. Quite frankly, that's my opinion. And knowing, that individual for 10 plus years now, working with him on, the medical cannabis program when that was implemented down in Florida in 2014, I think is 2013, 2014, into 2015. So,
Well, I didn't know that. So you talked with him and worked with him and had kind of some kind of relationship with him but that's also early days. I wonder, it sounds like he's been relatively consistent on cannabis and has, much
yeah.
earlier than some other politicians has embraced it. I don't know if that's an age thing. I don't know if that's, I don't
Oh,
know
it's
what.
absolutely an age thing.
Okay.
I mean, he said he has three priorities. I mean, those three priorities are cannabis, tough on big tech, and go after the deep state. Like that. That's just, what he's going to do.
Mhm.
I think, again, this investigation has been going on for 2+ years. I
Mhm.
mean, if there was something that was really earth shattering, that just wouldn't stay quiet for that long. I know too much about politics now, unfortunately, than I ever wanted to know.
Sure.
And so, I think he gets through the process, whether that's confirmation or through a recess appointment.
Mhm.
Doesn't really matter for us. But I think he's a net positive. If you read the story, it's always been, he came out of nowhere. He wasn't even on the short list. He made his pitch on the airplane, and voila, he became the guy. He got a big, big
Yeah.
promotion, quite frankly. And
Yeah.
so he's not going to sit there on his hands. He's got a directive, just like Elon's got a directive, just like Vivek's got a directive, just like RFK's got a directive,
Mhm.
just like Trump has a directive. Like if last Tuesday didn't tell you what the expectations were of the general public on just being status quo, and playing it safe, I don't know what else can send the message to the politicians, quite frankly, about, hey, you work for us.
Mhm.
We don't have any power, and I still think, that message was sent quite strongly. I mean, every swing state went red. Pennsylvania, who arguably was supposed to be a toss up with you know a very strong up and comer in Governor Josh Shapiro, who waxed,
Poetic.
the
Sure.
the gosh, I can't even remember his name. He was so bad, and he
Well,
lost so bad.
well,
Doug Mastriano, who's a senator, in Pennsylvania by 14, 15, 16 points. That state was red across the board, on the federal races, and I wouldn't exactly call U.S. Senator John Fetterman blue, or deep blue for that matter, or blue. I mean, he's a very smart man. He makes his decision based on the topic, not just how his party should think about it. And so, the invincible Josh Shapiro, I just think, kind of came to the realization, hey, I gotta, continue to push on things that matter to my constituents, because, they aren't just going to vote this way or that way. Um, the very, very, very good outcome, that occurred for JUSH, and quite frankly a lot of the other publicly traded multi-state operators, and anybody who operates obviously within Pennsylvania, is Pennsylvania, even though it
I was
went
going to ask
red
you.
at the federal level, um, the House held Democrat. The Senate held Republican. It's the exact same makeup that they had. They've already voted on leadership. It's the exact same leadership that's been there, and quite frankly, continuity is a big thing and a big plus for cannabis. And so, I think we're extremely excited. I've said it on, or we said it on, Jim said it on our earnings call. Cresco said it on their earnings call. Adult use, and us two have been, just like Kim's been focused on Florida. Jushi and Cresco have been, focused on Pennsylvania, because we know the position, that we're in there, where a lot of us are in, as far as we have 18, soon to be 18 operational stores. Last time I checked, GTI has 18 operational stores. Trulieve has 21 operational stores. Cresco's up there, Verano's up there, and so that's a big deal. And there's a lot of local folks that have invested a lot of money there as well. And so we're super
Yeah.
bullish on you know adult
Okay.
use
Finally making that turn.
happening early next year. All the stakeholders outside of the industry are continuing to give us feedback. Legislative Black Caucus, the unions there, you know, all of the chambers for the city. What needs to happen is happening there, and so um, you know, the industry has been flipping a coin for about the last 3.5 years. It's come up tails every single time,
Yeah.
every single time.
Yeah.
And, the first flip for Pennsylvania at the state level was heads for us. And quite frankly, Matt Gaetz is heads for us. I don't agree with the gentleman too many times, but he is a big plus for cannabis, and he's gonna get it. He's gonna get stuff done. I mean, that's again the directive, and I think
Yeah.
the message that was sent over the last week and a half by the voters.
I definitely think so. I think things are looking better in Pennsylvania, which is great and interesting to hear sort of that same setup, that continuity is a plus, because I always wonder if shaking it up, I know we've seen that kind of more on the federal side, seems to be more of a positive for cannabis than what we've had. But I'm imagining with that sort of federal overlay and sort of the continuity in Pennsylvania, that maybe they're able to kind of get something passed and through.
I don't see rescheduling, running into a roadblock. Whoever took over, quite frankly, as a U.S. Attorney General, like
Really?
what? So there is a big misunderstanding about what S3 is and what the process is,
Mhm.
and I'm just kind of like a, a guy from the Midwest who went to a decent university, but so I try to dumb things down because I'm just a dumb guy. And so keep in mind there has been rules posted on the register
Mhm.
signed by the U.S. Attorney General, who is still the U.S. Attorney General, by the way,
Yeah.
that said the cannabis should be on a Schedule 3, should be listed as a Schedule 3, not a Schedule 1. That
Yes.
they came out a month or two ago and confirmed that all the supporting data and the two-step process was kosher. This is good.
Mhm.
Then you have the DEA, which are all attorneys, so a lot smarter people than myself, that are supposed to, if necessary, defend the position of the DOJ in front of the judge, the ALJ. And so you have in the administrator who's, supposed to be defending the ruling or what was posted in the register by the DOJ to the judge. And she obviously took it upon herself that she was going to gunk up the process. She decided to, what I equate it to be is, I just scored a 1600 on my SAT, but I forgot to write my name on the test, so I got a 1550.
Ugh.
She forgot,
Mhm.
and I will air quote that, to say, hey, this person is associated to this organization, and this is how that organization is going to be either for or against the recommendation that was made, which was moving cannabis from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3 narcotic. She couldn't do that. And she didn't do that. And so if you didn't think she was a stopper before, she played her hand, and you definitely know she's the obstacle now.
Mhm.
And the judge, quite frankly, called her out. She got her hand caught in the cookie jar. He said, I'm taking over this process. Thank you for your work. And but leave it to me. And that judge is very much an individual of integrity. He came up through the service. So I think he was Army and Navy judge, and he's all about processing and procedure. That processing and procedure was broke by the administrator, and again, she got called out. That's why he's going to hold a preliminary hearing on December 2nd. That's still happening. And then come mid January and mid February, he's going to say, these are the people who have standing. These are who can talk to me about this. But and let me be very clear. I think this is the important piece to understand. Again, the DEA is supposed to be protecting or making a case for what was posted in the register, which was to go to Schedule 3. And what does Schedule 3 mean? I mean, everybody knows this. Moving from 1 to a 3, you go from no medical benefit to some medical benefit. Like, that's not even a real thing. I mean, that is proven 50,000 times over.
Yes.
And so the real piece is the second part of that, which is addictive. Is or isn't more or less addictive. And that's where you have to kind of make the case, and you can use the data. And look, obviously, that's what needs to be determined, and we have the science to back that up, we feel like. And so that's it. That's all that needs to be done. Not that I think it should be descheduled, not that I think it should be at this the states to decide. Nothing else. This is for those 2 points. Like, when you're in litigation, you focus on what the judge is actually focused on. Score points for that. Don't get sidetracked. Don't go chase this way. That's what lawyers try to do to throw off people. And so it's very simple. Is it or is it not less or more addictive than fentanyl? I don't know. Fentanyl is a Schedule 2 narcotic. Last time I checked, people were celebrating because we had 16,000 people, overdose last year on fentanyl. It was down 16 or 14 or 16% year over year. But guess what? Fucking 16,000 people still fucking died. And sorry, I don't need to use that language, but important. I mean, that's disgusting. And so it's, it's, I think it's pretty straightforward. And, even if it's somebody else besides Matt Gaetz, I don't see or understand how that changes. So I think there's a lot of hearsay out there floating, but it's actually very straightforward.
I think that's reassuring in general. I think on that process, that is kind of a clear-cut path. I know there was some uncertainty towards the beginning of, not the beginning of the year, but a few months ago, heading into what are delays, what's going on. But I think you're right. It is that simple process of reviewing it and making that determination. I do still wonder, do we have any more insight in terms of what a credible complaint is? Because I can't really imagine what that is for those people who are trying to go to the hearing and say, I have a grievance and this is not, because I feel like so much of the data, and again, maybe it's the data that I'm seeing, seems to be so supportive of it's not addictive. It does have medical benefits. I
you can give me a set of data. You can give a lot of people a set of data, and you can get whatever it is, the message you want out of it. But at the end of the day, regulated cannabis has been, through state regulated systems, whether you want to count California or not, since 96, but let's just call it since even adult use in Colorado in 2014. Last time I checked, the sky didn't turn purple, and this, that, and the other. Yep. There weren't major issues. There still aren't major issues. As somebody that has to drink a coffee every morning, ask me how addictive that is. As somebody who has worked really hard to stay away from alcohol, ask me how addicting that is. And it's no more or less I enjoy cannabis. My cannabis I consume at night because I can't be out in public with people because I hear all the different conversations and I can't stay focused. So
Sure.
it helps me go to sleep. And so, I like, tell me that's not a benefit to me. Even though anybody who knows me knows I can pretty much fall asleep anywhere.
Such a skill. Me too.
Yeah. And so, I continue to kind of go back to, this administration, whether you agree on them or not on, a lot of different policies, which I don't, to be very clear. I mean, I didn't vote for Trump, but, if you look at it and think about it from a common sense perspective, I mean, that's really what they're trying to get back into the government. And I can't argue with that. I mean, I see that waste 24/7, 365. And I see that hypocrisy 24/7, 365 for the last 14 years of my life, 15
Yep.
years of my life. And so, I mean, strap in, put your seatbelt on, and be ready for a wild ride for the next 6 months. But when it comes to cannabis, the people that are going in place in the administration, he said he supports S3. He supports safe banking. Well, he has no better time with no better setup than to do it right now.
Yep, I agree. So I feel like if we see, Schedule 3 move through, if we did see something like SAFE move through, even before things like Pennsylvania kind of really come online, what are the implications for JUSHI, of course? And then if we did see kind of those further things that have just been thrown out that we're not really taking into account as something that we see happening immediately or anything like that, but if it does get off the schedule, if something like that does happen, what are the implications kind of there?
Yeah, and I'll be perfectly clear. Like, I have full visibility, and pretty good handle and feel on Pennsylvania. I think Pennsylvania goes before those two, and so I've never been good. The industry has never been good about pegging timelines.
You
And
have
so
though. You've got the history again. Last time or the last time you're on.
I got Florida wrong.
I'm
So
gonna count it.
my credibility is out the window right now. I need to make
Yeah.
another big bold prediction. But
There you go.
but yes, I did have a good feeling about when the White House was going to come out, and that was just dumb luck. With timing worked out well. But
Sure.
but look, I think Pennsylvania going for JUSHI, we are let's call it $55-ish million EBITDA producing business right now. Current run rate. We just signed deals in Ohio. We announced it during our call, that we signed definitive docs, and put 2 operational stores under MSAs in Ohio. We're building out, those 2 stores that got +1s. We're building our +1 that we got. By the end of Q2 of next year, we'll have 7 new stores open. That's called growth. So let's that's kind of, let's call another incremental 10, 15, possibly even 20 million bucks of EBITDA by that time. So let's just call the company, to be conservative, $65-75 million of EBITDA. We have 18 stores. We have 125,000 square foot cultivation manufacturing facility in Pennsylvania. And so, I think, we've said this publicly. The second that market flips, we pass legislation. I think you'll see implementation of that program in 90 to 180 days. And then look, it's 40+ million bucks of lift for us, to our EBITDA. So you're talking about going from a 70 to 80 million buck EBITDA business to 110 to 120. We have 180 million bucks of debt on our balance sheet, minus 20 $2 million of cash, let's just leave it at 180 because I'm at 110, 120 of EBITDA. I'm below 2 times debt to equity, or EBITDA to debt, excuse me. And that's a refinanceable company in a growth industry who still has Virginia on the come line and no maturities until the end of 2026. I don't know. I feel pretty good about that story.
Yeah.
Am I crushed that Florida happened? Did I have exposure to that? Absolutely. But I'm selling physical assets to get back into the market right now. And I just know it was an overreaction. I couldn't
Yes.
talk to any investor, and I run IR, I run government affairs for JUSH. I help with biz dev even. So I even see the buy and sell side. Not one person was acting rational last week. Not one person. Actually, there was one person that act rational, and that man has made a lot of money right now. And so, it's interesting. It was interesting, but you know, I will say, JUSH, we've had a strategy, before. Well, we've had a strategy the whole time, quite frankly, which is retail first, back into upstream cultivation manufacturing when we have the distribution channel built out. Now we're getting back into growth, so we're building out the retail channel, and we'll back into GP if we need it. Which we're seeing that you don't really need it, with the exception of a couple markets, and so I think JUSH's in a unique position. I tend to agree with like Boris and a few other people that there's going to be combinations because a lot of people had a lot of things staked on Florida. So you're going to see a few companies that are on the larger side get rolled into the bigger boys and women, quite frankly. And
Okay,
so Kim needs a growth story now. I don't know. I kind of fit well with Kim. She doesn't have Jersey. She doesn't have New York. She doesn't have Illinois. There's plenty of other, tier 2 guys that, need to roll into something. She's in a pretty good position. Ben needs to get bigger in Florida. This is a huge opportunity for him. Boris needs to do something. Verano had exposure. Now they just did a great deal in Virginia, and so they're going to be good. They're just a great company. Period. That's ran correctly, and so I think you'll see it. But for us, we didn't have any exposure to Florida. If anything, long term, and this is the business person in me, Florida not going is actually probably long term better for JUSH than not going.
as
And
long
again,
as you have the new administration and who seems very favorable, because I think without it, that would be really, really bad. But I think, one
well,
footprint.
Matt Gates ain't going now to be Florida governor. So I think
Sure.
it'll be interesting to see kind of how all that shakes out. I mean, you're talking about like I'm with my parents right now. They're watching Fox News, and they're talking about Laura Trump taking over for Marco Rubio. A person that has a communications degree, and she actually went and did she was a chef at some culinary school. Like that name's getting tossed out. It's kind of
Random.
again. I think you're gonna have to see how the dust settles over the next 3 to 6 months before you start making longer term plans down in Florida. And so the good news for a lot of folks is we have exposure in Pennsylvania. JUSH has exposure in Virginia. GTI has exposure in Virginia. Verano has exposure in Virginia. Air has exposure in Virginia. Now, who knows what they can do now? That'll be interesting. The cannabis has exposure in Virginia. Who knows what happens to them now? So, I think it will be, a couple good solid quarters to see what happens in the marketplace, and we'll probably be in a different world come June, July of next year. But again, Jushi has a lot of growth that we're currently exercising or executing, I should say. And look, I said it. A lot of people were focused on Florida. They lost focus of other markets. We capitalized on that, quite frankly. So, it's a good position to be in.
Yeah. Interesting also to have that complementary map in terms of, what markets you're in as well. Definitely important on that front. And I do think just heading into the next year, I know there's still some uncertainty that's getting ironed out as these appointments are being made and just sort of as we're getting a better sense of how things are going to head into in January. But I do think on top of heading into a, like you're saying, more cannabis friendly environment broadly, I do think people are kind of underplaying the business friendly element as well. Cause I do think that that is a key thing that would be helpful for small business.
Again, Elon Musk smoked weed publicly.
Sure.
Matt Gates stood on a podium and said, I don't care if you drive weed in on white vans down I-95, get it into my state to help people. President Pro Tem Trump plays a lot of golf. He has a lot of rich buddies. I know they're all, consuming cannabis. And so, I think again, it's pro-business. It's a states' rights thing. It's a public safety thing. And that's like music to their ears. Billions of dollars in infrastructure spend here in the United States.
Yeah.
Tens of thousands of jobs here in the United States. And it's tax dollars. And, they're going to, Vivek and Elon are going to cut trillions of dollars, but we still have $1 trillion to go. And so, if you can get, hundreds of millions or billions of dollars of revenue that's quite frankly there, just not getting recognized because, again, we have, an illicit market in THCA flower. And I want to be very clear. There's a separation between what I would call hemp and all those, synthesized products and using that loophole versus like the loophole of the loophole of the loophole with THCA flower. You've had the IDFPR in Illinois now come out and say, that is straight up impacting regulated cannabis sales. Mm-hmm. And so if I know one thing, like I don't think that is going to play in this administration as well, from a public safety perspective, a law and order perspective, an enforcement perspective. Those are all things I think are going to be, very much on the table as the administration, takes over early next year.
Yep. I definitely think also just in terms of simplicity, rather than trying to play whack-a-mole with the illicit market, with sort of these kind of synthesized derivatives or things like that, it is a lot easier just to be more friendly to cannabis, have that, stable, safe, growing American industry. I know cannabis itself is global, but I think, for the businesses, the cannabis businesses that are American, I think just opening it up and making it a little bit more kind of common sense, friendly, all of those
American
things.
American made.
Yeah,
We're only up in Canada. And I got to be honest, it was the one thing when I talked to people in Florida where they're like, some Canadian company was going to have a monopoly on the Florida market. Of all things that stuck with people that voted no in Florida, my brother lives in Miami. Miami was shocking to me that it was 51% no, 49% yes.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, some Canadian company was going to take over Florida. And so kudos to Governor DeSantis. He knows his people better than I know his people, but the fact that actually was the one thing that stuck in people's mind is nuts to me. But with SAFER and the uplisting part of SAFER, that language, we all come to the United States. We all qualify to be on a market. With S3 for JUSHI, it's a $50 million boon. 27 off our balance sheet, and then 23 of not having to pay. $23 million of cash for taxes. And look, we are actually had started to get in our ERTC credits. We're owed $10 million. We got a couple back. It was a small dollar amount, but it's 43 different transactions, and so hey, maybe we'll actually start getting paid now. And so that's no small dollar amount for us. With rescheduling, I don't have to pay 280E. Huge. That's a big deal for a lot of folks. Well, for everybody, quite frankly. And then SAFER, gosh, I have one mortgage, but man, I'd love to surely be able to get a lot more mortgages, buy a lot more real estate, get better locations, not have a landlord charge me 5 times as much because they might get their mortgage called. I mean, there are so. Oh, by the way, the American consumer super tight right now. They would much rather spend on their credit card. They spend 30% more. I can't take a credit card. People are like, why aren't sales growing? It's like, well, dude, they don't have the cash. They want to put shit on a credit card.
And also, if you make it a little bit more difficult to, I have to go to the ATM, I forgot, or making things a little more difficult, making things a little more easy, that has a huge, huge, huge impact as well.
Huge spend. Huge spend. And so it's all these small little ripples that happen from, that larger piece. And so, I think it's, let's see. I've been lied to since December 2nd of 2022 at the federal level, by Chuck Schumer himself. Let's see if it's different here. Let's see. So, like I said, it ain't going to get worse. It can only get better. So that's, that's kind of how we're thinking about it.
Yep. I think that totally makes sense. I think it has been tough just because I think it's been a lot of common sense things that, the industry has been asking for a long, long time now. And I think it's been a constant push. I think it's been growing momentum in terms of asking for those things and for support around that, which has been good, but I think frustrating not to see those changes just made yet. But it does seem like, we are kind of face to face with some of those.
And look, you always kind of needed, 10 Republicans in the Senate to vote for it, right? So now you only need 8 Republicans. And so if you're telling me you were a yes vote before, but now all of a sudden you're a no vote now because it's just the Republicans are going to get credit for me.
Sure.
Credit for it on SAFER for SAFER. I mean, that is not a good look for a lot of the people that would be in the Senate, quite frankly. So that's
another thing that looks good.
Just when
I love it.
Think about it from that perspective, the House has never been the issue with that. It's always been the Senate, and so this is a good, easy, simple win, quite frankly. And if you're going to be a flip flopper on the Democrat side in the Senate now, I mean, you can kiss yourself goodbye come 2026 or 2028, whenever you're up, because you will get pounded for that one.
Yeah, I definitely think there are a lot of investors and obviously, voters ultimately who are kind of sick of old rhetoric of things not getting done and want to see those changes. And I think it's becoming more. That is
what this told us. If you don't see that as a politician, you should just quit. You should just quit.
Yeah.
That's what this election told us. You're talking about a man who allowed people to storm the Capitol on January 6th. And you had a man that was, still saying he should have won in 2020.
Sure.
None of that mattered. I
Sure.
mean, none of that mattered. Zero.
Mhm.
Like it wasn't even close.
No.
And so if that's not a wake up call, I don't know what else is for
Yeah.
folks.
I do definitely think it is reflective of people wanting a new guard, of wanting things to be done differently. So I think that is reflective also in a ton of things, but also definitely in cannabis, for
Yep.
sure. So I agree there. All right. Well, I know we are heading into the holidays in general. I know we normally see like a Green Thursday, so people might be doing some early shopping. Wanted to check, A, what are you shopping for ahead of the holidays? I'm sure your family's lovely and you don't need anything to get through the holidays, but what's sort of your recommendation? Do you have any fun ones you'd throw out?
Yeah, look, I've always said, and you know, why not? What's different from sharing a joint than sharing a beer with the family? And so, the good a nice little flower on the golf course, is tough to beat.
Yeah.
Enjoying it down here in Florida. Um, and so that's that's what I'll continue to enjoy with my dad and my cousin and my her husband and then my brother, and so it's no different. But maybe we go smoke it by by a playground so people get used to it so they can actually vote
Uh,
yes on Amendment 3. Joking,
I love it. That's
joking.
funny. Yeah, that's good.
Just for people out there, that was a joke. That was a
Yeah.
dig.
Mhm.
But no, I think what you're seeing from the industry will continue to be promotions around the holidays.
Yeah.
For us, we do the 12 days of Christmas. Come December, but Thanksgiving is always a big weekend for us. We saw Halloween be a big weekend, one of the biggest ones we've seen in quite some time. So I think that the consumer, now that we're through the election, is going to start picking back up here. So interest rates are going to continue to come down. Trump has made that very clear. And so I think you're going to see business and a big boom for the next couple years until it gets to be too outlandish and too crazy, and then we'll see what happens. But
Two
let
1980s.
the bubble live.
There you go. A few more years longer, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it definitely seems like he's ready to amp up. I know the drill baby drill, and sort of, I think that sort of ethos is kind of throughout the entire platform. So it definitely seems like
We're out of energy in T-minus 7 years because of AI. Nuclear. If you haven't been educated on nuclear, go look that up. I mean, it's clean energy. It's nuts.
yeah.
It's the answer. Drill baby drill works for so long, but where we're going with AI, what it's doing for our business already, what it's doing
Yeah.
for our industry, what it's doing for a lot of people is astronomical. And so that ain't going anywhere. So it's power, cannabis, crypto, and energy.
And cannabis, of course, of course.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. Yep. Definitely looking forward to heading into next year on the cannabis front. I think that'll be, a very, very, very exciting time. Trent, thanks for taking the time and kind of walking us through. It's always fun to have you on, but it's always super insightful too. And I know that's really important for a lot of people who are out there and following the space. I do also want to give a special shout out. I saw for the MSOS gang on X. They are coming up on their 1-year anniversary, which is exciting. I think it speaks to kind of the general community around cannabis, whether you're using it, investing in it, growing it, running a business in it. I think that there are a lot of great people out there who are, really trying to educate, support, and get that information out. So I think that's very important. With all that said, Trent, thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. I know you are busy, but appreciate you making the time.
Thanks, Mackenzie. Have a good one.
Thanks so much. Have a great weekend. All right, bye.
Take care. Bye.
Before investing, carefully consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses found in the prospectus, available at AdvisorShares.com.